Hello and welcome to the Superhero Show. I'm Chris and this is not Daniel Krupa.
It's not.
He's busy at E3 and therefore Gav has stepped into the breach.
Drafted in.
And we're actually going to talk a little bit E3-ish, aren't we?
Let's do it.
We're going to go games rather than movies this week.
Are.
And you're going to give me an education.
Am I?
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
We're going to talk about Spider-Man. So what's going on, Gav?
So Sony did their conference this week. Everyone's saying it's one of the best E3 conferences there's ever been. Not just Sony's done, like literally there's ever been, because it was just like hit.
Yeah.
And one of the hits that they rolled out sort of in the middle, was a new Spider-Man game. So they're working on a new Spider-Man game. Obviously, like Sony owned Spider-Man. Like for ages, the PlayStation like font was the same font as Spider-Man. I don't know what that was about. But there hasn't been a really good Spider-Man for ages, and they used to be like these games used to be really, really good.
Yeah.
When Activision were making them, like they were actually pretty good, and then there was a couple of really duff movie tie-ins. But this is not a movie tie-in. They're allowed to go out, Marvel, they're working really, really closely with Marvel on something that's just going to exist as well as their Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
So they kind of really can do whatever they want with it. But
Which is good, because that's
really good.
That's essentially what the comics do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So why shouldn't the games do the same thing? They're different mediums. They don't all have to be interconnected.
Exactly, and I think people who are into comics, they put up with the fact that there could be like 8 different Spider-Man series going on.
Yeah.
So why can't other people sort of do it? I guess like some people might think it's a bit confusing, but I don't know, not really. And I just think like for character-wise, he's one of the best suited to video games, I think, because I think just like swinging around a massive city.
Well, of all the superheroes, isn't he the one who's got the most fun powers?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's the most visceral. Flying is really good, but web slinging, there's something about that.
Definitely.
That's really cool. And so, if they can capture what that feeling is like to float through the air like that.
Well, I think it's more like better than just flying. Like with web slinging, like it's almost it grounds you. So you sort of it's more like skill based. Like I remember like on the really, really good ones. Like actually be able to swing together different sort of swing combos from like building to building.
Yeah.
It felt amazing, even on like a rubbish, like shitty, like PlayStation. So imagine what it's going to look like now. Like, and the trailer is really, really good.
Yeah. So who's the studio that's making it?
As a company called Insomniac Games.
And have they got history in this field, or is there a reason we should be excited they're doing it?
Well, they've got a history of fun games. Yeah. So they do a lot of fun games. It's like Ratchet and Clank. But they also do this game which I really, really disliked, but Americans loved it. And it was this game called, God, what was it called? Sunset Overdrive, yeah.
Right.
Which I really, really didn't like, because
you just slagged off all our American viewers.
No, look, it was just really popular with American people for whatever reason that I found. But basically, and the thing I didn't like about it is the main character's terrible. The humor, which is what it was sort of billing itself for, it was just awful. It just wasn't a funny game, and everyone was going on about it's meant to be this really big funny game. But the one really, really positive thing about it is the way you sort of moved around and traversed around the city was fantastic, and it felt really, really fun, because it basically felt like you constantly were on a skateboard all the time. Yeah. But you're sort of like grinding different things. And the other thing as well, like the bosses were fantastic. Like the boss fights were really, really good, as well as like power-ups and things. And I think like with the Spider-Man game, you're going to be like powering up your web slingers, you're going to be powering up different things. And I think Insomniac will come up with a bunch of really, really fun stuff to do. And the fighting was really good in there as well. So if they can sort of marry that together, I think it could be really good.
Is there any suggestions to who the villain will be in the game?
Well, there's a couple of little nods. So hidden on one of the signs is this really cool thing that I spotted, which was Osborn for Mayor. Oh. So it's a sign that says Osborn for Mayor. So we know that the Osborn's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be Harry yet, but. The really, really good thing about that is they've already said that they're going to, that a big part of the story is going to be like, this, obviously the movie's trying to do it all the time, but like it's going to be a massive basis on sort of Peter Parker versus Spider-Man and how he sort of puts those two things together. Yeah. But there's a really, really cool, this is what I think anyway is going on in it, is you see these sort of like masked goons, and the only other time I've ever seen similar ones to those is a big enemy called Mr. Negative. which is kind of I never really enjoyed him that much in the comics because I was always just a little bit confused by him, and I never really followed that many arcs. But he does have these sort of henchmen called these inner demons, and I'm pretty positive that that's the things that you're fighting in the game.
So you feel a bit negative about that?
I don't feel a bit negative about it. But I get it. Yeah. But I don't feel a bit negative about it because it's just I don't really understand that villain that much.
Yeah.
So I think, if he's going to be the big bad guy, maybe they'll do a better job of doing it in a thing. Because he sort of started coming into the comics just as I stopped reading Spider-Man. So I think maybe that's why I didn't really like it.
What do you think is the best superhero game so far that's been released?
That's been released.
In your opinion?
I mean, it's Batman, like the Arkham series, you've kind of got to go to because
Defo.
I just think they just nailed Batman.
Yep.
And it's just they're just really, really fun games.
Yeah.
And I just think the combat is brilliant. The world that they create is just as good as any sort of movie or comics that I've read, I think.
So could this be Spider-Man's Arkham? Or is that a big shout?
It's a really, really big shout, but I think the thing that it's got good going for it is that every time that Rocksteady released a Batman game, because it was so good, it won just every single award. It won almost every BAFTA. It was universally loved. And I think the Marvel have obviously seen this and gone, hang on, we're either level peg or beating DC in every other medium. Let's take it to video games. And I think Marvel have really taken control over their sort of all of their properties. And for them not to do it in video games now seems pretty silly, I think. So, yeah, I mean, I really hope it is, because if they can nail the combat and the flying around, and they don't just have a mess of villains, because that's the really good thing that Arkham are good. They're quite good at using them sparingly and well, whereas a lot of the bad Spider-Man games just sort of whack them all in and be like, you fight Rhino about 50 times.
Yeah.
Let's not do that.
All right, well, I need to try and stop raising expectations unfairly on this game.
Yes, definitely.
That seems bang out of order what I just did.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on this one you want to say?
No, I don't think so.
The other thing I saw from E3 that I liked a lot was the South Park trailer.
Yes.
Now, they nailed it, didn't they?
So good.
They nailed it.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're not a gamer, maybe you didn't see it, but there's this amazing bit in the trailer where they talk about, it's just taking the piss out of the Marvel phases.
Yeah.
And we actually talked about it a little tiny bit on the IGN UK podcast, and Dale noticed a bunch of awesome little Easter eggs just on the back. There's this whiteboard, and there's so many just little tiny jokes and sort of little digs at Marvel and DC written on the thing, and it's just brilliant.
Quite rude about the black superheroes.
Oh yeah, that's really, really funny.
It's a good joke.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, should we do some feedback?
Let's do it.
I will kick off.
Okay.
So, on the last show, we talked about why Iron Man 3 is
amazing,
such a divisive film.
Okay.
And the video was quite divisive.
Right.
We had a lot of feedback. Sorry if I don't read out yours, because there was too much for us to read out on the show.
Do you know, I didn't realise that it was such a divisive film until I came to work here.
To be fair, most people who wrote in were actually fans of the film.
Right, okay.
A lot of people wrote in and said reasons they liked it and reasons they didn't. So people kind of sat on the fence a little bit. But Navarre wrote in and says, I've always found the controversy around Iron Man 3 to be quite strange, and I hold the belief that in 50 years' time it will stand up as a great movie, divorced from the expectations of the time. Here are some points as to why I feel the film really worked, and I'm going to read out a couple of the points because they're quite long. Steve Rogers issues Tony a two-part challenge in the Avengers. First, he tells him that he's not the guy to make the sacrifice play, and then he asks him who he is without the suit. In that movie, Tony makes a sacrifice play and also glibly answers the second part of the question. Iron Man 3 deals not only with the fallout of the sacrifice play in the form of PTSD, but also fundamentally answers the question of who Tony is outside the suit. So a lot of people wrote in, a couple of people wrote in and said that they felt like the film was disconnected from the other films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But this guy's saying it isn't, and for that reason it is. And then he also thinks the Mandarin twist saved the film. For the entire film up until Tony Slattery is revealed, I was fuming at the hateful, hyper-Americanized, cliched terrorist who just hates our freedom shtick that the film was subjecting us to. It was a well-worn and cliched trope by 2013, and it smacked of a lazy corporate misunderstanding of the state of the modern world. When it was revealed that the character was indeed an invention of American corporates, it came like a revelation, both because it meant I'd felt exactly what I was supposed to, and because it created an interesting, if not very deep, look at how the American media politics uses the nebulous face of terrorism for its own purposes. A summer blockbuster that critiques other summer blockbusters is always good.
I really love the idea that he enjoyed he didn't like that it was doing a certain thing, and then obviously he's realised then he's been led down the garden path, and
I think
they've made him feel exactly what they wanted him to.
I think it's really smart when a film does that.
It is really smart, yeah. So this is from Alex McDonald. I just thought I'd weigh in on the whole Iron Man 3 debate from last week. As a film on its own, I enjoy it because as a writer-director, I love Shane Black's work, but as part of the wider MCU, I don't think it works. Don't get me wrong, I love having some directorial flair in Marvel movies. Ryan Coogler and Taika Waititi have me particularly excited, but if you took Iron Man 3 out of the running order, you wouldn't really lose anything from the overall structure. Tony suffers from PTSD throughout and destroys his suits at the end, but as soon as we pick things up in Ultron, he once again happy-go-lucky and has a new set of automated bots. That's a fair point, I think. Arguably worse films like Thor 2 have a greater place in the MCU because that at least sets up an Infinity Stone for the future. Iron Man 3 is certainly a fun, enjoyable film, but overall it just seems very standalone and just there to make money because Tony Stark is one of the most popular characters. I'd love to hear your thoughts. P.S. If Shane Black did a DC film, what would you like him to do? My choice would be Green Lantern Corps because he could make it a buddy cop movie in space. To be fair, like, is that a bad thing that it feels like it's a standalone thing? I actually think that's pretty good.
Quite agree. I don't think they all have to be telling the same story.
Because as he mentions, like, you know, even bad films like Thor 2, like, do a really good job of connecting them to a thing. And just because it's connected to him doesn't mean it's necessarily a good film.
But it does lead to problems which Richard Burrows writes in about, I think. Coming off the Avengers, the complete absence of any of those characters is conspicuous.
Yeah.
If Tony Stark is missing, presumed dead for several days, and the President is kidnapped, you'd expect at least S.H.I.E.L.D. to turn up, if not another Avenger. Thor 2 and Winter Soldier events mostly take place either off-world or in secret enough for the other Avengers S.H.I.E.L.D. not to be aware of the events until the final act when it's too late for them to become involved. The fact that only Pepper and Rhodey seem to care that Tony is dead and only Iron Man can rescue the President in the world of superhero and secret agents is a glaring issue for me. So, I mean, that is a fair point, and it's a problem they've got to address in every one of these films.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like he says, you know, he mentions like Winter Soldier, and what was the other one he mentioned there?
Thor 2.
Thor 2, but like, I did kind of feel like that because Civil War felt so massive.
Yeah.
Coming straight after Ultron, even though they do a really good job of chucking a lot of them in there, like, I don't know, you kind of feel like, it's easy to say because they're not in it, but it's easy to go like, well, Banner, why isn't Banner in this? Like, why isn't Banner involved in this?
It's something you can ask in every one of these films you watch, and it's really painful that they have to explain it away, and it's just a problem they've got that's not going to go away anytime soon. Rich is also upset with the lack of AC/DC, which was actually, someone said that last week as well. People really miffed that apparently AC/DC is not in that one. So
maybe Shane Black just doesn't like AC/DC.
Who doesn't? Everyone likes AC/DC.
Steve Sticks here from Perth, Australia, not Scotland. Here's what I didn't like about Iron Man 3. Tony or Iron Man doesn't win one fight scene. I like that though. Shows that he's human. He wears a suit that doesn't work. Pepper doesn't die and beats Aldrich Killian. Yeah. Terrible villain, not the true Mandarin. Breathing fire, what the fuck? Jarvis controlling the suits. What's the point of Tony Stark? That's fair enough. Tony's suit just falls to bits. Not iconic soundtrack or scoring. Terrible villain motives. Aim was flawed. Tony just found the videos remotely. Did you boys this? Wasted opportunity for MCU story development. No cameos. Last 5 minutes were rushed. Taking the magnet from his chest, just a slap in the face to Iron Man 2. I did kind of think that as well. But yeah,
I like that. That's quite an angry email.
It is quite angry.
From Stixie.
He forgot to spell any words.
Chris Hartman writes in. So we're gonna move off from Iron Man. But thank you for all the emails on that front.
No, it's good. I really like this thing. As I said, I didn't even realise until I came, because I think it's better than both the Avengers films.
Yeah.
Like, I love it so much. And when I came here, like I mentioned to Krupa that I really loved it, and he was like, "Oh, I'm glad you do, because we do as well." But nobody else seems to like it.
Try writing the review, mate.
Yeah.
And you're screwed. Here's an email in bullet points. By the way, we did ask for bullet points in emails because and people have done that, but some people have written really long bullet points, which is defeating the object.
That is a little bit.
Keep them concise, people.
Yeah.
Chris Hartman's done exactly that. He talks about Iron Man 4 a little bit, but he says he'd actually prefer more Thor films than Iron Man films. He says his films haven't been the best, but he has the richest world to explore further. Thor 4 could introduce a lot more that we haven't seen yet and probably won't get in Ragnarok. Robot clone Thor, Asgard on Earth, Unworthy Thor, which could introduce female Thor and better Ray Bill, the Enchantress, and Greek, Roman, Olympian gods like Hercules.
Yeah.
Fair point, Chris.
I thought first Thor was all right. Didn't like the second one. I couldn't be more excited for the third. Like, I think it's going to be really, really fun.
A Thor and Hulk movie.
Thor and Hulk, that's the thing. Like, it's not even because Taika Waititi's involved, like, you know, because he's not writing it, he's just directing it. But I don't know what, it's just something exciting. Yeah. It's an exciting pair, and it was the best bit about Avengers, having those two together. Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, Chris agrees with you.
Excellent. This is from Rebecca Yanovskaya. So I'm really sorry.
I think that's not the first time her name's been butchered on this show. So sorry, Rebecca.
Really sorry.
These amateurs.
They should write it like phonetically.
They. Amateur.
What are your thoughts on the research that shows people are actually more likely to enjoy a movie if they know more of the plot going in? I've heard marketing research has shown that it actually drives sales better, leading the situation we have now with trailers.
So yeah, again, this is something we addressed last week.
Great question.
I've heard about that research. I'll take that. I haven't got enough. Yeah. I've heard about that research, and I guess it is true based on what we're seeing in trailers. But just for me personally, I'm dead against it. I want to be surprised by movies. I hate having those surprises spoiled in trailers, and therefore I can't get on board.
I think like the worst one, like the Terminator trailers, both those things spoiled something massive in both those last films. But I think like just for the X-Men one, where they just chucked away the Magneto Quicksilver. That lineage thing.
We've done it. We've done a show on it.
Bonkers.
Recently. Yeah, it's
absolutely
not
bonkers.
For us, but it ain't going to stop. Yeah. Brandon Nelson says, do you think by the end of Phase 3 that Marvel will have the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four, as both of these film franchises are slowly going down the drain and need someone like Marvel to kickstart the franchise once again? If so, would you like to see a reboot of the MCU which would include the Avengers, X-Men and the Fantastic Four, or would you like to see Marvel continue into Phase 4 with the exclusion of these two film franchises? Well, A, I don't think it's going to happen, but B, it would be really cool to have everyone together.
Yeah, I mean, just to have a massive universe. But then, how do you make that film? Like, it's already too many people. Yeah. Like, how many people are in X-Men? Like, that's another, like 20 characters?
Maybe they become quite episodic. So, like the Spider-Man scene, you'd have a Fantastic Four vignette for half an hour. Or
yeah, to be fair, I thought like that Civil War scene is, that is probably the best use of so many characters in one thing. It didn't feel like over the top. And actually in Civil War, it did feel like all the big characters had their little scenes as well. That's the
thing, we keep doubting them, but they keep managing to pull things off. Yeah. So,
but also, like, I thought X-Men Days of Future Past was pretty good, and like the, Apocalypse is, it's pretty boring, but it's not a bad film. Like it's a 3-star film.
If you can have all those characters on the comic book page, I reckon you can have them in a movie.
Yeah. Don't see why not.
Just ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
I know, it just makes too much money, I guess. Yeah. Duan Hassan says, my question is, who would be your Green Lantern casting in the DCU? I know they messed up with Ryan Reynolds, but they have an opportunity to get it right this time. What do you think Idris Elba is the Green Lantern? I would love to see this happen, as I feel he would do a great job playing the Lantern that I grew up watching in the cartoons. Yeah.
Good shout.
That is pretty good. I really would like Jake Gyllenhaal. Mm-hmm. I think someone wrote in the last time I was on the show actually and talked about it, and then I've thought about that ever since.
You're always talking about Jake Gyllenhaal. We're always thinking about him.
He's good.
Chiwetel Ejiofor's the one I want in every film.
Oh yeah, he'd be really good.
I guess he's doing friggin' Doctor Strange, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
But I guess it's the other side. Anyway, Brandon Nelson writes in from Belfast.
It would be good. Sorry, Jamie Bell.
Do you think Jamie Bell's going to do another superhero movie anytime soon?
What else is he doing?
Apparently he was screen tested for Bond.
Really?
That was the rumour.
I quite like that. That's good.
It's a bit little.
But also, he's in Black Panther though, isn't he? Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, he'd be an amazing Green Lantern. It's so much fun. That'd be good.
I'm trying to think about Green Lantern.
Just other people who's in Fantastic Four.
Okay. Kate Mara?
Yeah. Get her in. Get them all in.
That old bloke from House of Cards. Brandon Nelson writes in and says, do you think Deadpool's inclusion in X-Men Apocalypse could have made it a better film? Just look at Spider-Man in Civil War as an example. It got everyone talking, and although Spider-Man had a minor role, he was still a big part of both marketing and the film. I feel that Fox could have done this with Deadpool. Imagine seeing Deadpool interacting with Quicksilver and Deadpool mocking Apocalypse, as well as adding a bit more charisma to the action sequences that X-Men Apocalypse desperately needed.
I think you, by having him in it, by having him mocking Apocalypse, I think you completely undo Apocalypse in a way that can't be fixed.
Yeah.
and I think it really undermines him a little bit too much.
Yeah.
A similar thing that it's weird, but a thing that happens in wrestling now and again is that he does it all the time. I've seen like 3 times now where it's happened, where they bring The Rock back just for a laugh. And he comes in, and he did it this year. I was talking to Dale about it, and he basically there's this really serious family that are basically like serial killer hillbillies, and they're actually quite scary. Then at WrestleMania, they brought The Rock back, and he kind of just made jokes about them and completely undermined their entire gimmick. And for me, then my attitude was changed to them, and I wasn't scared of them anymore. I wasn't.
Right.
You know, and just because they've had this guy taking the piss. And I think if you bring Deadpool into a really serious film like that, you lose it, and you completely undermine.
And they had to dip their toe in the water and figure out if Deadpool would work. Now they know he does. It's up to Kinberg and the rest of them to figure out a way to unite these. And he said it's possible, but it just needs to be done very, very carefully. And it has to be in service to the story, rather than just because it'll make them extra money.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think even if you... I guess they advertised the Wolverine cameo because they were like, no one's going to go see this film. Everyone's kind of scared. It's got Wolverine on it. Please go see it. And I guess you kind of don't want them to do the same thing with Deadpool just because Deadpool's made a shitload of cash.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be like a novelty.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was weird then. It turned into the wrestling show, didn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone, I'm sorry
about that. Let's do a wrestling show. It's pretty much superheroes.
I guess so.
Sort of. The Rock's a superhero.
Where do people have to send their emails if they want to write in, Gav?
Hopefully, superheroshow@ign.com.
That sounds about right to me.
Yes.
As ever, thank you.
Those were awesome emails as well, man.
They're always good.
So good.
We've got good viewers.
That's really good.
Thank you for writing in. Thank you for watching, and keep it right here on IGN for all your superhero needs.